Hey astronauts, this is Brandy and welcome back to Astro-Tarot Research. So I'm starting a new series. This is a little bit more impulsive, but a few of you guys have been asking this for a little bit, and that is for me to just talk about different Nakshatras. So I thought I would just come on and go for it. I'll hopefully be posting more frequently now. So I am not like a master Nakshatra person. I don't know everything about everything, but I can give you the information that I know, and that is what this series is. So let's not waste any more time. Today I wanted to talk to you about the Mars-ruled Nakshatras. That is Mrigashira, Chitra, and Dhanishta. Mrigashira takes place in the sign of Taurus and Gemini. Chitra takes place in the sign of Virgo and Libra, and Dhanistha takes place in the sign of Capricorn and Aquarius. For you, I'm going to have like a summary of this on my Instagram at Astro_Tarot Research, just in case you want this in written form and you want it to be a little bit more organized for you. Some things that I have found and seen through the media, especially like TVs and television shows and movies, specifically when it comes to Dhanistha, Chitra, and Mrigashira, is that there are a lot of themes of time travel, memory loss, dealings with, I guess maybe trauma from the past. That's like the main focus, though sometimes it's like a focus on like good times and things that are past, though I would say that is a little bit more Ardra or the Rahuvian Nakshatras. And another theme that has come up would be sort of like this love theme, and the theme in pertaining to love is really like kind of working hard towards love, waiting for love, like the efforts that you put in when it comes to love and romance, and the fact that it can last for a lifetime. So that is a common theme amongst the Mars-ruled Nakshatra. Not even just a lifetime, but even just in the next life and forever and ever and ever. And it kind of just like goes on, you know, like I'll recognize you even in the next lifetime. Even if I forget you, I would fall in love with you again. So movies like Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind, where you have them erase their memories. They were in a relationship, they broke up, and they end up falling in love again. I'm currently watching a movie right now, Needle in a Time Stack, and that one has a similar theme of Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind, where the memories get erased or they're slowly losing their memories, and the theme is they have to kind of fall in love again or something along the lines of that. Again, I haven't seen the full movie yet, but that's pretty much the theme, and it kind of just reminded me of that. You have the movies like Overboard with Goldie Hawn, who has a Mrigashira placement, and she loses her memory and she falls in love with Kurt Russell. So there are a lot of themes when it comes to not only specifically Mrigashira that happens a lot, but I've seen it with Chitra as well. Not so much as Dhanistha. There is some other themes I've seen with Dhanistha, sort of like memory loss, but not really. Well, I guess a little bit, yeah. But it's a specific thing with Dhanistha. But the memory loss with Chitra and Mrigashira do happen a lot, and it's like a theme. And you may even see this a lot in Mars-ruled natives' lives, where they may forget things over, or you have to repeatedly remind them. Or sometimes I've seen this specifically where they may concentrate on a certain memory and they may retell a story over and over again. Maybe not to forget it, maybe because it was important, maybe because it was like a very powerful, impactful event for them. I've just seen that commonplace happen quite frequently, just in general observations from me interacting with Mars-ruled individuals. That's a little bit more anecdotal, but for your reference, that is what I have seen when it comes to Mars-ruled individuals. Now, when it comes to like the memory loss theme for Dhanistha, I've seen a specific thing, and it's almost like this specific theme for Dhanistha is where they kind of die, they go to heaven, and they come back to life again. So you can see this theme in Down to Earth, which is starring Chris Rock, who has a Dhanistha placement, where he dies, goes to heaven. He died too soon, and he has to go into another body and I guess make this girl fall in love with him again. He made her fall in love with him in a different body. It's like a comedy. So he was a completely different person, looked nothing like his former self. He was not perceived to be a very attractive person, but he came to life as sort of like a rich man, but she wasn't really interested in money. I'm blabbing on, but basically he had died, came back to life, in a different body, made this girl fall in love with him again, but then he had to switch bodies again and do it over and over again. But this time, towards the end, he lost his memory. And I've also seen this particular theme. I've seen this particular theme in Drop Dead Diva as well, where you have the Dhanistha native once again dying, coming back to life, and having to live again, or she died too soon, or in her mind she died too soon, and she comes back in a different body and she has to live a completely different life. And at the same time, she's trying to make her former fiance fall in love with her again. I also saw, it was another show, this was a Korean drama, Oh My Ghost, where you have a Dhanistha native who she becomes possessed by an Asta native, and she ends up losing parts and bits of her memory, just like having huge memory gaps during the time in which she was possessed. So that's another thing. So Dhanistha is a little bit more of a spiritual placement, more than likely because of its connection to Saturn and Aquarius. And I see a lot of Aquarius themes having to do with reincarnation. That is a theme that can display in a few nakshatras, but I've seen it a lot with Aquarius nakshatras when it comes to reincarnation. But overall, we do have a theme of memory loss when it comes to the Mars-ruled placements. From what I've seen, the planet Mars really has a strong connection to the past and really clings to it in a very visceral way, which is why you'll see this connection when it comes to time travel as well as youthfulness and retaining youthfulness. So I thought in the beginning that it was just like a Dhanistha thing, but it does seem to apply to all of the Mars-ruled nakshatra placements, where they tend to look a lot younger than they actually are. Generally, if they keep in sort of like a physical shape. Now, if they are not in a physical shape, then this doesn't apply as much, but for certain you will see this theme within movies. Now, I already mentioned in my Black Beauty study specifically the nakshatra placements that are deemed to be the most likely to like age slowly or to look more youthful. Number one is the Mercury ruled nakshatras for sure, but that's a given, right? It's Mercury. Mercury's like the number one like youth giver. Second was Saturn, which, you know, kind of interesting that Saturn rules old age, but it seems to, if you have like very strong Saturn placements, you may look older when you're younger. But when you age, it tends to like slow things down, and Saturn ruled people tend to look a little bit younger than they are when they're older. And the third kind of popular placement would be the Mars ruled placements. These placements look the youngest to people as they age. Okay, so they tend to look a lot younger than they actually are. And you will see these themes in movies and shows like the original 21 Jump Street, stars Johnny Depp, and he has a Mrigashira placement. You'll see this in movies like Never Been Kissed with Drew Barrymore, where she kind of goes back to high school. You can see this in TV shows like Angry Mom, which is a Korean drama where a mom who looks a lot younger for her age, she goes back in high school to stop people from, I guess, bullying her daughter or her daughter's friends. I haven't watched the drama in quite a while, but I remember the gist of it. People kind of mistook her for being a high schooler a lot. So you see a lot of retention of the youth when it comes to the Mars-ruled placements, and it kind of makes sense, even if you look at science and the backing of science. When you are burning energy or when you are exercising and you're remaining fit, it really does help your skin. And Mars obviously rules kind of like exercise, fitness, energy burning, cardio, things along the lines of that. Another thing that I noticed about the Mars ruled Nakshatras, and this happens, I've seen it a lot more with Chitra and Dhanishta, is they take on a character, and so they may pretend to be a lot dumber than they are. Someone like Larry the Cable Guy. You can see this with Norm Macdonald. Now, he was a comedian and he never kind of upplayed his intelligence, even though he had several degrees. Paris Hilton did this a lot. You know, she was on The Simple Life. She had so many different famous quotes. Remember, she was like, you know, what's Walmart? Like, she was pretending to be dumb, even though I believe she even went to school with the Walmart children. So she was obviously putting on an act. So you'll see this a lot with lot of Mars ruled people, where they kind of pretend to be a lot dumber or not as smart as you may interpret them to be. A lot of people may think that they are just not very bright. So a lot of the Mars ruled Nakshatras will use this tactic for several reasons. It could just be for entertainment purposes. It could possibly be because they find it amusing themselves. With Chitra, they kind of like that shock factor, especially for women. They tend to like to shock people more so with their wardrobe, but they can do this with certain personality traits that they want to take on, or just like very like outspoken. If you've ever seen the movie Boomerang, there's a scene with Grace Jones, who has a Chitra placement, where she is kind of like asking, you know, Eddie Murphy's character, does he want to have relations with her? And she's out like screaming in the middle of the restaurant. It makes this huge scene. So you can see them not having an issue with creating this very shock factor or this very disruptive energy. You'll see a lot of Mars ruled placements not having an issue with being like very disruptive in a way. Back to what I was saying, how they will take on a character. Similar to what I was saying with Larry the Cable Guy. I've even seen Mars ruled people like the woman who created the drawings for the Rider-Waite tarot cards, Pamela Coleman Smith. She was a Dhanistha native. So even the woman who created the tarot cards, the drawings for the Rider-Waite tarot cards, the illustrations, Pamela Coleman Smith, she moved around a lot, and I think a lot of people thought she was kind of like a different ethnicity than she actually was, and she would play that up because she saw the attention that it would give her, or she may have thought it was amusing or funny. So you see a lot of Dhanistha people will take on a role, take on a character, take on an attitude in order to be either more shocking, they find it amusing, to create more entertainment, to have more acceptance, to create more friends. Whatever it is, they may take on a role in a character. Like I said, I've seen it a lot more with Dhanistha and Chitra, more so than I've seen it with Mrigashira. Mrigashira people, I don't really see them taking on too many characteristic like roles. They may tend to be a little bit more like, I don't know how to explain the character. It's almost like they're very much like, I don't care what happens. Like, I don't care if I show up to work an hour late, or like I'm gonna go talk to people on Tinder and ask who has a boat and then see whose boat I can get on. So it's almost like this blase like character. It's a little bit like laissez-faire. Like, it's just very much like, I'm just gonna see if I can get into VIP. I'm just gonna ask. Like, it's more like a confidence thing, or maybe even like a impulsive thing, or whatever it is. It's just a more like a attitude that is like, I'm just that girl, like, or I'm just that guy. Like, Kanye West would be an example of that. You know, I'm the ish, and he's kind of known for his like big headedness and like hyping himself up, and like he's like #1 probably known for that with his like son and Mrigashira. Like, it's very much like that. So it is a character in terms of like, they may be over exerting or over exaggerating their confidence, and they're over exaggerating to the point where it's like, whoa, this person is just acting how they want, doing how they want. And that's a little bit more of a Mrigashira vibe that I've seen. For Chitra, like a good example of this kind of like boastful attitude would be someone like Soulja Boy. And he's kind of known in a way, like on the internet, oh, Soulja Boy did it first. Like he's always saying how he did everything first. And then he always comes with like the receipts, which kind of gets back into what I'm going to say about the time traveling thing and too. Where he's just like, I was the first rapper on YouTube, which is true. And I was the first rapper to get the iPhone, which is also true. But he was like, I was the first rapper to deck out my G-Shock with like diamonds or something like that. And he, because I think Kid Cudi made a post about how he had his G-Shock with diamonds, and Soulja Boy comes out with a photo from 2010 where he had his G-Shock decked out, and it was like, okay. Like, so they have like this kind of like, they can have a very boastful attitude, or they kind of talk a lot of mess too, where they may like be a little bit more antagonizing, or a little bit more sarcastic, or a little bit more of a I guess the word is a shit talker. They're shit talkers. And for Chitra, so a good example of that would be kind of like Ryan Reynolds. It's a very like Mars ruled placement thing. But back to what I was saying when it comes to time traveling. Like I've seen a lot of movies specifically with Mars ruled natives having to relate to time travel. And that goes back to the themes of memory loss, the past, and as well as technology, because Mars is a technical planet. So you'll see a lot of Mars ruled people be very much into academics, science as well, but they're just generally into learning, as I mentioned with the comedian Norman. So they very much do have a lot of desire to gain intelligence, gain knowledge, expand their mind. So even if they come off kind of like goofy, talking mess, or even just pretending to be dumb, then that is very much a facade. And the reason for that they give this facade is in order to, it's sort of like to test people around them and to gather more information about people and individuals. And because keep in mind, all of the Mars ruled placements take place in air signs, and air signs are social signs. They're signs of communication. So what Mars ruled people are doing is they're trying to master communication and maybe even control the environment of the room around them, or whatever room that they step in. It's a very more so of an analytical approach. And I've seen this like highly with Dhanistha people. Like they will really sit and analyze a character. They're going to be a little bit more quiet and observant versus somebody like Mrigashira. They're probably going to be more engaged. Chitra, from what I've seen, Chitra people are a little bit more like Dhanistha. They're a little bit more shy in person, but once they go online, they tend to come out with like this personality. Like when you see a Chitra person in person, they're going to be very shy more than likely. And then when they either get to know you, they're going to be a little bit more like very excitable. They're going to be a little bit outlandish, outspoken, similar to what I said, like very boastful, really in your face. Like I'm that girl, I'm that guy, like just pretty much very braggadocious. You see that a lot with Mars ruled placements, where they will be very boastful of themselves in the sense that, oh, I've gotten this many women and these kind of guys talk to me, and etc., things like that. Yeah, they may bring about things in a way, but it's really more so like I did this amazing thing, or I did this thing first, or something along the lines of that. So that's something I've seen with Mars ruled placements. Let's get into what I was saying with the time travel. So as I said, one of the themes that will come up in a lot of TV shows and movies, etc., just in the media, will be Mars connected to time travel because of their connection to the past, memory, things like that, wanting to hold on to the past, wanting to cling to the past, or even just kind of being stuck in a mentality of the past, okay? So that's something that can happen where, especially, and this is a trigger warning, I've got to figure out the way to properly word this, especially with placements like Dhanistha. Dhanistha is a placement that I have seen encounter a great amount of not so great treatment, just very much a lot of attacks from others. It's like very, very serious issues, even bordering the lines of like abuse and things like that. Like it comes up quite a bit with Dhanistha. I've seen a lot of Dhanistha like energy kind of being portrayed in this very Cinderella-esque way. And this can happen, like I said, to all the Mars-ruled Nakshatras, where they are going through this period in their youth where they are experiencing a lot of abuses of power from people above them. And they're kind of treated as, you know, that Cinderella stepchild where you do the chores, you do the sweeping, or a lot of people higher up may be very critical of towards them, especially towards their parents. Doesn't even have to be higher up. It could be their peers as well. But the most intensity I've seen it, and consistently I've seen it the most with Dhanistha. I've also seen it with Mrigashira and Chitra as well, but I'm just saying I've seen it the most consistently and the most powerfully with Dhanistha. Okay, so that's all I'm saying when it comes to that. And so when you experience a lot of events like that, there are a lot of very tragic things, a lot of very harsh realities, you know, physical assaults, physical abuse, etc. like that. Obviously, you can be very, very triggered. With Dhanistha in particular, I've seen a lot of Dhanistha people having nightmares, post-traumatic stress, a lot of like can be triggered. Mrigashira is probably the most like easily triggered. Dhanistha may, if they're triggered, they're more likely to not like be as reactive as a placement like Mrigashira or Chitra. Chitra is probably the second most reactive or second least reactive. Like it's right in the middle. Like these placements really line up. So Mrigashira is going to be the most reactive when they're triggered. Chitra less reactive, and Dhanistha even less reactive. But they all do get triggered. And these themes can come up, in particularly, like I said, with Dhanistha. I've seen the theme of bullying with all of them, with all of the placements, especially bullying when it comes to their appearance, anything to do with sexuality, anything to do with, could be their race. Like race comes up a lot with these placements, but mainly those are the main factors. A lot of Mars ruled people will struggle with their weight. They're not the only placement, but it is a very common placement for that. And usually they may have some sort of glow up. And Chitra, I've seen more plastic surgery than I have with something like Mrigashira. Dhanistha as well. I've seen more plastic surgery with that when it comes to wanting to alter and change the appearance. I will say the differences when it comes to appearance. Mrigashira is kind of like Mystique, where they will take on lots of different appearances and be a little bit more changeable and flexible than the other placements. In fact, I think Mystique was actually played by Jennifer Lawrence, who does have a Mrigashira placement. So Mrigashira is more of a Mystique energy, so they're more likely to just kind of switch things up a lot more. Could possibly just due to trauma, could possibly just have to do with the fact that they just like switching up their look. Doesn't really matter. Chitra, they're a little bit more stable when it comes to appearance. They're probably going to change a few things that they may not like as much, but there's also that fluctuation when it comes to weight. In fact, one of my favorite movies, what is it called? I'm trying to think. It's like a Korean drama, like Korean movie. It's like 200-Pound Beauty, and that is about a Chitra girl who undergoes surgery. Now, first of all, let me get this story right. It is about a Chitra native who is a singer, and because she is overweight, she's like a backup singer for someone else, like very Milli Vanilli, right? She's singing somebody else's vocals, and this other person who is like very skinny and conventionally beautiful kind of gets all the credit. So people kind of treat her like garbage. She eventually decides to get surgery and change her appearance. And also she decides to lose weight. And it's also interesting because it reminded me of the woman who sung a lot of backup vocals. I'm gonna get her name right. Martha Wash. If you don't know Martha Wash is, she was a singer and she sung a lot of famous songs, but her voice was just like, they really loved her voice, but they didn't like her appearance, so they used like a bunch of models to still basically take credit for her voice and the singing, and they kind of cut her out of the videos and didn't give her any credit, and she had to sue for that. And so I looked up her placement, and yes, she does have a Chitra placement. So you can see themes when it comes to beauty, trying to meet beauty standards, a lot of criticalness when it comes to appearance. Same with Dhanishta, that's going to be a major issue as well. The thing about Dhanishta though is, what I've noticed about the appearance is they'll kind of pick an iconic appearance or an iconic look, and they'll kind of, you know, stick to that look, and it becomes like part of their brand. Versus the other two, a little bit more flexible when it comes to their brand. But as I said, Dhanistha does have that Saturnian energy, so it's going to be a little bit more stabilized, which kind of makes sense. So that's more thing that you'll see with Dhanistha, which is probably why they're known as most famous, because they will pick something like iconic. Like you have, I don't know if you were on TikTok, guys, but you have Bella Poarch, and she has like her iconic kind of like pigtails, and she likes to wear the all black, and she does that kind of like facial expression. So they'll pick a more like an iconic look or saying, or yeah, like Paris Hilton. Meg Thee Stallion, she kind of sticks to, well, she doesn't wear pants. I know that. Like if you think, when I think of Meg Thee Stallion, I cannot imagine her in pants. I cannot imagine her in a suit. I know she's going to be in something that really shows off her curves. So they'll pick a more iconic style or iconic look, and they'll kind of stick to it. I don't expect Dhanistha people to switch it up as much as you would some other different placement. I keep kind of skipping the time travel thing, but let me get back to it, okay? So time traveling becomes part of the narrative because of the clinging towards the past and wanting to change the past, wanting to reflect on the past, maybe even wanting to have some sort of answers to the past, or even change patterns, familiar patterns, and wondering why you may have certain triggers and things like that. That's going to be something, a theme that a lot of Mars rule people will deal with throughout their life. That's why you see in a lot of movies like Back to the Future, Looper, trying to think of time movies, See You Yesterday. You see these movies will star Mars ruled natives, time traveler's wife. There's a lot of movies that relate to time travel and Mars ruled placements. There was even that movie on Netflix with Ryan Reynolds. I'm not even gonna bother to look up the name to that, but it is on Netflix. You can just look up Ryan Reynolds time movie and it'll probably come up. And so you do see a lot of them like going towards the past, trying to change the past. And one of the themes of the Mars rule placements becomes about accepting the past and letting go of any anger or disappointment that you have with the past. And that's going to be something that's going to probably come up very frequently through their lives, especially if you're a particular Mars replacement and you may get triggered, you may get angry, you may get anxious, you may get depressed about certain things. One of the lessons that you may encounter and overcome is going to be your emotions and dealing with the past. Even what's a good person for this would be like Shia LaBeouf. And you know, he had a lot of trauma when it comes to his dad and the way his dad treated him. And Chitra LaBeouf has a Mrigashira as well as a Dhanistha placement. And you can even see his behavior throughout the years, where some points it came off very bizarre. Sometimes it's inspirational, but sometimes it's very, very not so good. It's not so great choices that he has made within his life. Probably well, probably more than likely, like I'm 99% sure it was probably because he was triggered, right, in his behavior, just based upon his past and his actions. So that's going to be something that a lot of Mars ruled people are going to have to deal with and cope with and understand and sort of like control their behavior when it comes to certain things. That is why it is good for a lot of Mars ruled placements to avoid any sort of substances, alcohol drinking, drugs, etc., like that, just because it can really cause them to make a lot more harsh decisions and really out their actions than it would maybe some other placement, just because they may have those traumas and triggers. They're more prone to, more than likely, to be addicted and to act in a way that's going to get them in a lot of trouble. It can hurt them, can hurt other people. Another thing that I'll notice about the Mars rule placement is that you have this huge point of transformation or character development. So I've seen this quite a lot with people where they go through different phases and emotions and feelings towards Mars ruled people. It happens to everyone, but one commentary that I saw over and over again is people are just like, I can't believe like the character development of this person. This person really did a 180. Like, I used to not like this person. I used to hate this person. Now I love this person. And it can switch back and forth. But that's something that is very, very common amongst Mars ruled people. I kind of look at like Mars placements as kind of like the teenager or the child of the zodiac. They're not really, but they kind of act like that sometimes, where they may have that mindset of like a teenager in a way where they may feel like, oh, I'm so misunderstood, no one understands me, or something along the lines, like where they may not take responsibility for their actions. This is very younger on. It's usually when they hit about like 30, going through a Saturn return, where they get to be a little bit more reflective of their life, their actions, and who they are as a person. They are somebody who is looking to mature and to be a better person. That's something. So you may see somebody who is Mars ruled, who is just a awful bully, and later in life they can become a very incredible, gentle person who is protective and stands up for other people, or they can be way more level-headed. So that's something to note about the Mars ruled placements, the huge transformations. I see that a lot with Saturnian people, and I see it a lot with Mars ruled people. People make note of it, people make commentary on it about the different changes within their life and who they are as a person. But like I said, these are Mars replacements. They're very generally kind of go through them. It's hard to like go in my mind. There's so much I want to say. I don't know what you guys even want to know. I'm just like talking about things that I know about them, and like different ideas are popping into my head as I'm speaking. We have an up and coming full moon in Dhanistha, and you guys could do yourselves a favor, or even me a favor, and let me know your experiences of what has happened to you when the moon was in Dhanistha. This will be on the 11th or the 12th, depending on where you are in the world. I'm on the East Coast in the US, so for me, it's going to be on the 11th, probably around 10 or 9 p.m. or something along the lines of that, but you can look that up for where it will be for you in the world. And this is a good way to not only know how Nakshatras affect you, but just know how Nakshatras will move in the world. One good way to look up and kind of get the feel for the Nakshatras is to look up the news, look up what's trending, because the moon is going to give you a feel for the day. So when you see things that are trending consistently in certain nakshatra placements, for example, we have like I said, the full moon in Dhanistha. If it were me, I would probably look it up at least 5 times when the moon was in Dhanistha, and then look for trending things for that day, articles for that day, news stories for that day, and that will give you a good idea, as well as you can document your own experiences. Like you could just make a list or a diary or journal and say, hey, like this is what I did today. The moon was in Dhanistha, da 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 da. And that is one great way to really be able to make predictions within your own lives or even in the lives of others if you wish. So that is what I have for you, and that is all. Au revoir.